I love that song, God Is. That very first line, wherever I am, God is. If we could just remember that, a whole lot of things would go so much more smoothly, at least in my life. Maybe that's not true for you, but in my life. And it reminds me of how often I separate myself from this infinite intelligence that only seeks to operate in, as, and through me. If I could remember wherever I am, God is, then I would not forget that anything is possible. And as this month, as we're reimagining faith, it's so important for us to recognize, where are we seeking divinity? Where are we seeking guidance? Where are we seeking the answers to the questions that come up as part of our human experience? There's nothing wrong with the questions. There's nothing wrong with the challenges. We're human. We're supposed to have that. What's wrong is where we look for the answers. So if you've been hanging out the last few weeks, you know that one of the friends I'm bringing with me this month is mystic poet Shalane Harkin. And each week I've been featuring one or two of the poems from her first book, Susceptible to Light. So as we consider where God is, the worst thing that we've ever done is the poem that is a perfect fit. The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky out of reach, pulling the divinity from the leaf, sifting out the holy from our bones, insisting that God isn't bursting dazzlement through everything we've made a hard commitment to see as ordinary, stripping the sacred from everywhere to put in a cloud man elsewhere, prying closeness from your heart. The worst thing we ever did was take the dance and the song out of prayer, made it sit up straight and cross its legs. We removed it of rejoicing, wiped clean its hip sway, its questions, its ecstatic yowl, even its tears. The worst thing we ever did is pretend that God is not the easiest thing in the universe, available to every soul in every breath. Take a breath. Because today we are going to remind each other that God is not something off in the sky, some superhuman Santa Claus, I don't know, fictional character that's going to swoop in and save us or punish us. We are going to renew and reimagine our faith in a way that allows us to recognize and remember that our lives are simply examples of answered prayer. What is it that we put our faith in? Who do we trust? When do we trust? And how does that show up in our lives? And then together we will experience and create that reminder and that environment that allows us to absolutely remember or return to the memory and the knowing Science of Mind, Basic Declaration of Principles. Read it out loud with me if you can see it. The highest God and the innermost God is one God. Say it again. The highest God and the innermost God is one God. So when we talk about faith, and I ask you, who do you have faith in? Or what do you have faith in? When do you show your faith? Is it something outside of you? Or is it something that is so inside of you that is so connected to the whole that there is only one? In The Sacred Yes, the book The Sacred Yes, Deborah Johnson is having a conversation with Spirit, with infinite intelligence. And infinite intelligence says to her, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm the constant. Your problems are the variables. Your problems are what get you distracted from me. Your problems are over here, and you think, oh, I need to go over here, and I need to go over here, instead of going, wait, problem, you're here. I see you, but I am grounded and centered right here in the constant, eternal principle, the one thing, the one source, the clarity about knowing what is true, what is the truth. That's the constant. But all of us, myself included, sometimes find ourselves over here. Sometimes we find ourselves over here, and sometimes we find ourselves way back here. But we can always return to this constant, and that is a big part of what we are focusing on today. This month we've been doing a little quick survey each week, and it's really not a test, not like, did you get the right answer? Do you have the answer that matches Tracy's answer? It's really to encourage you to think about, what other words do you use for faith? Fill in the blank. What's a demonstration of your faith? If I just observed you for a week, what would be the evidence of your faith? That was the first week. You can still take the survey if you haven't already. Last week, we sent out the second survey. I have faith in, fill in the blank. How do you build or strengthen your faith? And I have the faith of, what comes to mind? And again, if you haven't filled out the survey yet, feel free to do that, because next week, I'll be sharing the answers that people in our community and online, which is also a part of our community, I'll be sharing the summary of your responses. And the 3 questions we're adding this week. What's one way you celebrate your faith? I know my prayer has been answered when... And when my prayer is answered, I feel. All of this is really pertinent if we are wanting to reimagine our faith. Reimagine what we know about faith, what we think about faith, what we believe, and how we use that in our everyday lives. There's a scripture that reminds us, from the perspective of the one source of life, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. There is no magic. There is consistent practice. There is commitment to stay in alignment with spiritual law, to learn more about spiritual practice, to apply that in our lives, and to do it consistently. In the Science of Mind class this morning, we're reading from the general summary, and there is a place on page 420, 421, where Ernest Holmes reminds us that it is our conscious, right, our consciously choosing to be in alignment with spirit that actually is undergirding our manifestation. So what is it that you have faith in? Who is it that you have faith in? That is really what is so important for us to think about. Now, from the very moment I thought about this topic for this month, reimagining faith, I thought about how many times I have said in classes to people who would say, Tracy, I want to grow my faith. Or, Dr. Petra, can you tell me how to have more faith? Or, Reverend Karen, could you show me how to grow my faith? I need more faith. But if you've been in class with me, and even I've probably said it from the platform a few times, there is no such thing as more faith. There's no such thing as more faith. Every one of you within the sound of my voice has 100% serving of faith. 100% serving of faith. Oh, I can't see you online, but in the room, I actually see a few people like with their eyebrows raised. Like, that's not true. I need more faith. I don't know, Tracy, that might be true for you, but you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't heard about all the problems that I have in my life, and I need more faith in order to get through them. No, you can't have more faith. Our reimagining faith is really about recognizing how we are using and applying the faith we have. So come on over here to the table with me. You have a 100% serving of faith. All of us have the same amount. Some of you know where I'm going. So let's say this is in me applying my faith. Let's say this is fear. And let's say this is what we normally call faith. Our faith has no form until we give it form. So, how many of you take your faith and pour it over here as fear? It's what you believe in. It's what you go to. It's what you think about. And you come to class or you come to Sunday celebration and you say, no, I've got some faith. I've got faith and I need to grow it. Well, yeah, it's because it's only like this much in your faith category in your mind. And when something happens, like you put your phone on the roof of the car, go back in the house, and run back to the garage with what you went in the house to get, and then you drive out the garage and down the street and around the corner and get about 5 blocks from home and hear this noise and don't know what it is. And about 20 minutes later, when you reach for your phone, you realize, oh, I bet that was my phone flying off the roof down the trunk and into the street. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh, that my phone is going to get crushed. Oh, my phone, I don't have time to go back and get it. I got to be at CSLDallas in like 5 minutes, and my home is 25 minutes away. What am I going to do? Oh, it's so horrible. What if somebody picks up my phone and they get my banking information? What? Oh, fear. I'm using my faith, my ability to believe, my ability to choose, my ability to think about what I want to have happen, all over here in fear. And there's a little bit of faith that says the platitude in that moment. Everything always works out in the end for good. And that's true. It's not really just a platitude. It is the truth. But when I say it, but what I'm really putting my energy and belief in is the fear, it becomes a platitude. It becomes spiritual bypass. It becomes impossible to occur because I'm over here. But what if I took some of that fear and I said, well, you know, the worst thing that could happen is that it gets crushed and I have insurance and I get a new phone. What if I took some of that fear and I said, oh, I can't worry about it because the source of all life has me, takes care of me. I know it's going to work out just fine. I just don't know how. What if I took some of that fear and just returned it because I do 3 affirmations? There's nothing lost in the universe. Everything that I have is divinely protected. Problems always work out in my favor. And I just put it back in the 100% faith. Does this make any sense to you? Yeah. And every day we have the opportunity to see what are we doing with our 100% faith. Which one is this? Has anybody been using some of their faith, turning their attention to fear in the last 24 hours? Yeah, if you're human, you ought to have your hands raised. I know, I see you all online. You think I can't see you, but no, I can feel your vibration. We all do this, it's human. But what we learn in our spiritual practice is to focus on this, which is the positive faith. The faith that is beyond anything that we can think of or that we can understand from our thinking, logical, linear brain that wants everything to be under control. In life, everything's not under control. What's under control is what we do about what happens in our lives. And so Ernest Holmes does an amazing job, and if you've never read Chapter 10 in the Science of Mind textbook, I highly recommend it. 3 things that he says about our misplaced faith, which is fear. 3 things that he says about it are: 1, the fear of lack is nothing more than the belief that God does not and will not supply us with whatever we need. Now, how many times have you said, God is my supply and my source. Spirit always takes care of me. But you know, I'm okay this month, but I'm not sure I'm going to have enough money next month. You know, I lost my job 2 months ago, and I'm really worried about whether or not I'm going to be able to even pay my bills next month. I'm afraid that there will be lack, there will be poverty in my life, and that Spirit cannot, or maybe I wasn't good enough, so will not supply us with whatever we need. Ernest Holmes also says the fear of loss of health, the fear of loss of friends, loss of property, all arise from the belief that God is not all we claim. Because think about it. If you really believe that this infinite intelligence that we call the universe, that we call spirit, that we we give credit for creating all of life, if we really believed that it was omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, what you got to worry about? No, I don't know. I'm like, are you silent because I touched a raw nerve, or are you silent because you disagree with me? I mean, I'm so used to, this is CSLDallas. I'm used to, it's like, yes, like, oh, or stop, Tracy, because you're hitting too close to home. But Ernest Holmes reminds us that when we are focusing on the loss of friends, property, people, money, when we're focusing on it, I'm not saying you ignore some limitations or conditions. I'm saying when you focus on it, you're simply filling up, you're using your faith for worry, for fear, for doubt. And this may be the most quoted sentence in this chapter, at least by me. What is fear? It's nothing more nor less than the negative use of faith. So this month, we've made a commitment to reimagine faith. We've made a commitment to remember the truth of who we are. So last week, when I left my cell phone on the roof of my car and drove to CSLDallas and realized at the Galleria 5 minutes away that, oh, that noise, oh, that must have been my phone flying off my car. And I needed my cell phone for something I was doing in the I mean, you know, all of that flooded my mind immediately. And out of habit, not because someone was telling me, but out of habit, even when I told people in the class, science mind class, oh, well, I can't do that because I don't have my phone. You know, I left my phone on the car. It's in the street somewhere. I didn't have time to go back to get it. It was like 3 hours from now when I get a chance to go back, it will be there or not. And if it's not there, there's a solution. A phone does not make my life, even though it has my life within it. All appointments, right? All contacts, access to my banking, right? Our phones have our lives, but they are not our lives. And so it was relatively easy and pretty quickly that I was able to say, it's going to be fine. And in case you're wondering, it is fine. 3.5 hours later, I went back to where I thought I had heard the sound, and I did not see my phone. It was not there. It was not in the street. And I went home a few blocks away, and I thought, well, you know, I was in a car. I was trying to be careful. Maybe I should walk over there where I can really, like, look. So I did. I walked back over there, and I looked. I looked over the curb. I looked for signs of a flattened phone in case, so squashed by a 4,000-pound truck, right? Didn't find it. Went back home. That's what insurance is for. Let me just start a claim. I'll have a new phone on Tuesday. And the first thing that happens, and some of you would have thought of this first, but I admit I didn't think of it first. First thing on the claim form it says is, would you like to use the Find Your Phone function? Which I didn't think I had set up when I got this phone. And so I clicked, and it's like pulsing. Your phone is right here between this street and this street, on this side of the street. Really? That's where I just looked twice. So I went back. I drove back, and I parked the car, got out of the car, and it was nowhere in the street. But I was clear this was not a life or death emergency. I was clear that technology is telling me it's right here in front of you somewhere, but you can't see it. And I'm looking at the street. Behind me, 4 or 5 feet from the street, is a patch of grass. Inner voice. Turn around and look in the grass. I mean, that doesn't make sense. You were driving down the street. It fell off your car. Turned around, looked in the grass, phone case, face up, in the grass. Not a scratch. Working perfectly. And all I could do is stand there and laugh. Right? Like you're laughing. Like, part of me was going, of course. And the other part was going, you just can't make this stuff up. That came, the lack of worry, the limited amount of worry, the belief that it was going to work out no matter what happened, no matter what the condition was, it was fine. That comes from practicing faith and knowing exactly who you are and why you are here and how to step back into the center at any moment in time. Is that a practice that you would like to do? Maybe you're already doing it, but if you're like me, you need to keep practicing it so you do it better, more automatically. So I'm going to give you an option. We can practice that together. It's option 1. And option 2 is Tracy can continue to practice, and you can practice whatever you've ever done that works or doesn't work. Which would you like? Option 1? No option 1s? Option 2? Option 1? That's not convincing. Option 2? Option 1? Just checking. Option 2? No passion, but no response either. Okay, so let's do option 1. If you show me your life, I will tell you what you've been praying for. I can tell you what you really believe, because our words and our actions are what we believe. And so one of the things that I do that really helps me know always to get back to center is this one that we're going to do together. And some of you online and in the room are already familiar with it. And it is a chant. It is a chant that we use that is a paraphrase of something that Ernest Holmes wrote. And it is, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And I'm going to ask my practitioners to take a place in the aisles and both hold consciousness and also keep the energy going, because we are going to all say this together. Don't worry about counting how many times you say it. I will be managing that process. You will hear a chime when it's time to stop. And at home and here in the room, I invite you to join in when you're ready, saying this out loud, starting in a whisper, and as it becomes your own, raising your voice, your hands, or your body, however it flows through you. Let us begin. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. that life is God's life, that life is perfect, that life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. My life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. Take a breath. Releasing any and everything that's out of alignment with this truth. And so it is. How might your life be different? Practitioners can be seated. How might your life be different if you really believed there's only one life? That life is God's life. God's life is perfect. God's life is my life now. As your energy begins to come back into the room, I invite you to take that question with you this week. How might your life be different if you reimagined your faith, where you were constantly filling your cup from the pure faith into your faith and not into your fear? That's our opportunity this month. So let's end where we began. Cleo brought us in with the lyrics from God Is. And I'm going to read the first part of each line, and I invite you to join me after the three dots, right, with the end of each sentence. And I want you to say the words like you really mean them, even if you don't understand them right here in this moment, because your brain doesn't know the difference. Where I am where I stand, where I breathe, in and out and through me, where I speak, where I work, where I play. God is playing boldly in and out and through me, as me. All together, God is, life is, truth is, God is. That is why you are living in answered prayer. Every word you speak, every choice you make, it is a prayer. Are you praying from fear? Are you praying from faith? That is the question. So this week, I challenge you. Reimagine your faith. Recognize you are living in answered prayer. Choose your words and actions wisely. Ashe, and so it is.